Today on Brilliance Business TV, we have Storey. Kay is the Brandstormer, global branding educator, best-selling author and CEO, founder and trailblazer behind Brandstorm Creatives and School of Brand. Having spent over 20 years in design and branding with her own business, formerly KDesign, Kay's mission is to elevate brands by creating relevant identities and consistent graphic communications that stand out from the crowd and visually connect with your audience. Stay tuned. Welcome to Brilliance Business TV, conversations with leading experts in business. I am your host, Mark Stephen Pooler. Today we have a wonderful guest, Storey. And the question today is, what is the difference between brand and branding? Stay tuned to find out the answers to that question. Let's make an official shout out to our show sponsors, Craig Shelley, Beverly Hills, Luxury Watches and Fine Jewelry at craigshelley.com. We are streaming live on mspnewsglobal.com. We're also on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And we're also on the E360 TV network under Fresh Takes on Roku, Apple TV, Fire TV, Android TV, and many, many more. So let's bring in our incredible guest, Storey. Kay is a personal friend. She's really passionate about brand and branding. Kay, welcome to Brilliance Business TV.
Oh, hey, Mark. Thank you for inviting me on. It's great.
I'm really looking forward to a conversation with you, Kay. We will really go in detail about brand and branding. Can you just take us back a little bit, Kay, a little bit about your past, your background that has led you to do what you do today?
Yeah. Well, I suppose one of my first memories, sorry, the printers decided to start going mad in the background. One of the first memories I've got of design is being at school. And a lot of people who know me well will know that I can't sing, can't hit a single note. So when we used to have choir practice, I was the person who was asked to mime. And I used to often get invited to leave the hall and create the posters. And, you know, going and creating has been, you know, part of my life since I can, remember. And I think that just naturally led me to go to art college and then moving on into the industry. So I've never actually had a proper job that isn't design related.
And you've had your business a long time as well, so you've got lots of experience in brand and branding. How long has your business been going, Kay?
22 years. In fact, it might just be turning 23, so it's a long time. But it didn't set off the way it is. So originally, after being made redundant for 4 consecutive jobs, you know, from leaving uni, I just decided to set up on my own, and I started freelancing, and I worked in a lot of the big agencies in the north. I'm in the north of England, and spent years freelancing, but I wanted more, and I wanted it on my terms, and I wanted the creative freedom that you don't always get when you're working on really big brands. So that ended up leading me to build a client base that has been growing for many, many years now.
Just share a little bit about your business and how you serve your clients, Kay.
Yeah, so we work with a massive variety of clients. The one thing I think we've got in common is the passion that people have for their business, and what we do is really get to know the business. We get under the skin of them, what they're trying to create into their audience, their sector, and work really closely with people. And then it's everything. It's looking at where they are with their, the mission that they have. Like, why are they doing what they do? Where's the passion behind everything, that they create, and what is the vision? And even to the point where people don't always consider this. What is the exit? What you're wanting out of it? You're creating an empire that you never leave. Are you wanting to franchise it? There's lots of different ways, you can take business when you're growing it, and these need considering. So we look at all those things, and really it's about getting the strategy right and really knowing who the target audience. And when we work closely with someone and we know that those things, that's when we can create branding that's really aligned to the business, which will actually catapult the business further and faster.
I heard you mention mission and vision. How important is that? Because all entrepreneurs do know the importance of having their mission and vision, and we talk about it a lot, but how important is your vision and mission in branding, Kay?
And it's integral. And don't forget that what we're trying to build is the know, like, and trust factor. So it's crazy online. There's so many people, and there'll be other people often doing what you do. So what is it about you that makes people connect? And usually it's always on an emotional level. Someone will buy into what that mission is. And all this needs feeding through into the tone of voice that you've got for your business. And through doing that, and I always say, building your brand and connecting with the audience, it's like dating. So, think of it as, what is it you're saying that resonates with someone? Think about your own friends and family. Why are they close to you? Why are you loyal? Why do they, you have a trust and a bond together? And it's that kind of thing that you're trying to replicate in your business. So I think when you're speaking the same language, and you do that by, telling people what your mission is, and people will resonate. When you talk about what your vision for the business is, a lot of people will really get behind that and want to support you, want to be part of it, want to, grow with you, buy those products. And it's, and it doesn't matter what kind of business you have. Those things are really, and getting to know you is what's going to create a loyal audience. Because what you really want, and this is one thing we pride ourselves on, is that our customers are cheerleaders. And for many of the years we've been in business, before we were more active online, we've built our business on reputation, and that means that you really have built your brand, and you've aligned to values, and those people who are your customers are your cheerleaders. And there's nothing better than an amazing recommendation from someone to grow your business.
I agree totally. Recommendations are a sign of a job done well. I build my business heavily with recommendations. And you also mentioned know, like, and trust. You have to get those key skills, know, like, and trust, to be able to grow business because people have to know who you are, they have to like you, but they have to trust you as well. And that is what a great brand and branding can do for you. Now, at the beginning of the show, I mentioned a really hot question. I know a lot of people get confused and people don't know the difference between what a brand and branding is. Could you share a little bit about that, Kay?
I think one of the easiest ways to think about that is really humanize your brand and think of it as a person. And your brand is, so if it was, well, you are a brand, the Mark Stephen Pooler brand, what do people say about you when you're not in the room? So that is like your legacy with your brand. What have you created? What customer experience do people have? And your brand is everything about, again, it's your mission, your vision, values. It's the strategy that you put in place based on all those things that tell people, who you really are, what's the soul of the business. And I think what people sometimes get mixed up is maybe think your logo is your brand, and it is it's your brand mark. But really, that's an asset which would come under your branding. So once you've worked out and you've got your foundations in place, what you really need to then do, that's to become a visual. What does your brand then look like to people? And your branding is everything. If you're even in retail, if you're a store, walking through that store, what shop you're in, whether there's a certain look, a certain feel, a certain music playing. There'll be if you are, you'll start with your branding assets, so you'll be working on your logo. And the thing is about your branding, you need to be consistent. That your branding reinforces your brand. So it's like the visual element. So it's everything from the colours that you use in your branding. Like your foundations would really include your colours, your fonts, and what style. How do you present yourself? Are you quite edgy? Do you use photography? Do you use a certain style of photography? And again, I say the word so many times, we joke. When I'm doing workshops, I'll say, during today's workshop, I will say consistency so many times that you're going to think it begins with a K, because that is really important, that brand is reinforced and recognised wherever it is. So, like when we see the blue, you think, oh, it's Mark, and it ties in with everything. So your branding is how you visually show up to the world to represent your brand.
That makes a lot of sense. And I remember when I was new in entrepreneurship, and you do get this impression that your brand is a business card and a logo and a website, and that's it. But like you mentioned, it's about what people say when you're not in the room, customer relations, how you deal with your clientele. And unfortunately, some businesses do get this wrong, don't they, Kay? They don't give as good customer experience and customer service as they should, which can lead to having a bad reputation as well.
Yeah, and that can apply to your branding as well as your brand, the experience of working. What is it like to have that product? What is it like to work with that person if you're a personal brand? And I think when it comes to your branding, the customer journey is still so important. When you're putting information out there, and whether that's a brochure or a website, the user experience of, that is part of the brand journey. Because if you get that part wrong, so many people, you're trying to drive people usually to, to your product or your services, and that at some point usually ends up including like a website. But then if the customer journey is really awkward, you're going to get people just, walking away from the table, because that is the journey is everything from your customer services to how people interact with you online. It's everything.
I agree totally, Kay. Kay, we're just about to go to a commercial break, so stay where you are. We've got lots to cover still. Thank you everyone for joining us for part 1 of Brilliance Business TV. We're here with Kay Storey, all branding and brand today. She has shared her journey of being in design for 22 years, coming up to 23 years in design, brand and branding. We have discussed your vision, mission and values. And let me ask you a question. Do people know who you are? Do people like and trust you? Join us for part 2. Welcome back to Brilliance Business TV. We're here with Kay Storey. Before the commercial break, we have discussed the importance of your vision, mission and values for branding and brand. We have discussed how it's important that people know who you are, they like and trust you. We have also answered a great question of what the difference is between brand and branding, because a lot of people get confused with that one. Kay, my next question for you. What are some of the common mistakes that entrepreneurs and business owners make when it comes to their brand and their branding?
I think one of them is rushing the process, because, you know, a lot of businesses probably think, you know, branding is for the big fish and not them, but it's the same process that everyone goes through. And, you know, there are procedures to follow. So, you know, they try and rush into maybe getting branding done. So a massive common mistake is people think, right, I'm doing all right, you know, set up in my business, I'm going to get a website done, which is great, but, you know, they've not really looked at the foundations properly, and that's the foundations of the strategy. It's the foundations of their branding, where, you know, the colors are aligned to the value and the sector and your target audience. There's so much more goes behind. We're not just choosing a pretty color and thinking, I love blue, let's go for it. You know, there's a reason behind everything, and people try and skip procedures. So what you'll find is that this is one thing that's a frustration. That money's not well spent when, you know, you're at a time when you're in growth, because people will realize that once they've cut corners, they go around in circles, which means at some point they're going to come back to that website and it'll be faster than they would have liked. They've spent that money and then realize they've done the brand, the foundation work, it's not aligned. And I see that really often. Yeah, or they'll try and start doing all the marketing without the you know, the core branding. So when they do show up, again, we talked about know, like and trust factor, and some of that chain is broken because it probably changes how they show up and where they show up and, you know, how they present themselves. So that's really difficult then for people to become associated to your brand through your branding. So yes, skipping procedures is a common thing.
It's a great point, actually, Kay. And you mentioned people trying to skip corners or go too quickly. And that reminds me of a little bit of what I talk about with mindset, where people will see a big, huge mountain in front of them when really you should be just taking one step at a time. A journey around the world starts with that first step. So you should never see a big mountain in front of you. And the amount of people who are in business that think the website is the be all and end all. I have to say, Kay, I know very successful people in business who haven't even got a website. And sometimes it's about getting your first few clients rather than investing all that money before you have got that money to invest, and making sure you've got the priorities right. So I like that you talk about strategy and taking this process correctly rather than trying to rush it and cut corners. So some great points there. My next question, Kay, some tips for us to implement. What are some of your words of wisdom, some tips that some business or entrepreneurs can implement straight away that will support them with their brand and their branding?
Yeah, I think be authentic. And that kind of goes without saying, but it's so easy, you know, to look outside your lane, or you see people doing well who are doing something similar to you, or you try and copy what they're doing, but they're not you. So when you are authentic to yourself, and that's being fed and woven into your strategy work that you do, that then can feed into your branding, I think you're doing yourself a lot of favors, because, you know, people will want to work with you or they won't. And not everybody will, but the right people that you're aligned to will. So being authentic means that you're going to connect with the right target audience. So always be authentic, and, you know, you'll get your day. It will, you know, and it'll be right for you.
I agree that being authentic is really important. And when I started working on my brand, Kay, I remember I was doing some of my mission, my vision, my wording, and I was trying to be very business serious. And I remember it was actually Gail Edwards that said to me, Mark, you're a fun person, you've got a lot of humor, but because I'm in business, I was trying to be very serious and business and thinking that was the way to go. So I was kind of taking my personality out of it. And that is a way to not build business. You have to show up authentically as yourself. If you're a fun person with humor, that needs to be part of your brand and branding. Do you agree with me there?
100%, you know, because the thing that will set you apart from others is you. And, you know, and if you're just being you, there's not another you, so you're winning already. It's just, you know, like I said, just stay in lane, keep your eye on the prize, do your thing and how you do it, and the right people will love you. And I think, you know, and another way that you can really do that is your story, because your journey and your story belongs to you and no one else. So that's another really great way for people to start to get to know you, and share your story, share your purpose, share what inspires you, share your passions. Another great way. And again, you know, your story is your story. There's not two of you, and there's not somebody else, you know, who's walked down that same path. Again, will set you apart.
I have to agree here. I have built my whole business, Kay, from using the power of my own personal story. things that I was embarrassed to share, my vulnerabilities, but sometimes they are our blessings that people will connect with, that people will really relate to. So it's really important sometimes that you share those vulnerabilities. Is that something you agree with as well?
100%, sharing your story about even my, where my story began at 7 years old in a school hall, worried that I know that I can't hit a single note and I'm inching towards the piano for choir practice and all these things. Like, that's my story, isn't it? That's where my first passion came from, to do what I do. So I do share that, and your story, doesn't have to be one of tragedies. Some people think that, if there's not kind of a lot of emotion, or there's not this like blockbuster story behind them, they've not got a story to tell. But that is not the truth. That not the truth. Your story is your story, and everybody should share that.
Everyone has a story, and you can be very creative. It can be parts of your business story, it can be about relationships, it can be about personal. There's always a story to be told, and it's really important that you do share some of those vulnerabilities, some of the struggles, some of the hardships, but also that you share how you are of value, tips, guidance, support, so that people really know that you can serve and support them as well. Do you have any more little tips for us before we move on to the next question?
I am going to just say, and I may as well, because I always say, just consistency throughout everything you do, whether that is, we just talked about sharing your story, whether that's how visually you appear everywhere, whether that's online, offline. Be consistent in sharing your mission, vision, values. It's just consistency is what builds the know, like, and trust factor, which will bring your clients to you naturally.
And
Always.
anyone trying to build a brand, their branding, but even to create any kind of level of success, consistency is key. If you commit to something once a week, you stick with once a week. If it's daily, you are consistent with daily. If it's twice a day, it's all about whatever you are commit to, you are consistent with, because consistency over time does equal success. Also, Kay, I want to touch on this a little bit. We are both co-authors of The Law of Brand Attraction 2. The creative mind behind the whole project is Sammy Blindell. The foreword of the book is Dr. John D. Martini, who is an absolute legend, someone I am a huge fan of, who I've been lucky enough to interview and do media coverage for. But this book, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, it has around 27 other co-authors in the book, or is that about right?
Yeah, no, there's at least 22, 24. Yeah, it's in the 20s. Yeah.
It's in the 20s, I know that for certain. All creative minds with great messages to share. Now, the Law of Brand Attraction 2, what is great about it, it takes parts of business, branding, PR, everything to do with business, but putting the concept of spirituality, brand attraction, law of attraction, it brings all that together. So whether you want to create success in your business life or in personal life, The Law of Brand Attraction is a great book. There are over 20 other co-authors that you are sure to get value from one of them, if not all of them. And also the legend Dr. John Demartini as well, who shares massive value. He shares lots of his vulnerabilities and struggles that he has been through. Can you just tell us a little bit about your chapter, Kay?
I can. It's what I like to do is I like to keep things simple, and anybody who works with me will know I like a bit of a giggle. So I think I've put some humour into it, simplify it so it's easy to understand, because the book is based, really aims at helping and supporting small and people new to business, because the whole thing about, if you try to take on all elements of building your brand and business, it'd be so overwhelming. So I've really tried to, make it easy to digest, and yeah, there's a couple of little giggles in there as well.
I would encourage everyone to go out and grab a copy of The Law of Brand Attraction 2. Go to thelawofbrandattraction.com. That's thelawofbrandattraction.com. Kay's got value in there. I'm a co-author, the incredible Dr. John Demartini, Sammy Blindle, and over 20 other co-authors. It's a great project. Kay,
Do you think that we should mention that we did go to number 1?
We went to number 1 in all sorts of different countries, and I know the paperback is just being released as well. And the paperback, we've got lots of big campaigns coming up over the coming weeks. So go and get a copy of The Law of Brand Attraction 2 at thelawofbrandattraction.com. Kay, who would you like to reach out to you about their brand or branding, their design? Who is key people that you really want to talk to, that you really could benefit from grabbing a free consultation with you?
Yeah, it's not necessarily about the size of the business, it's the kind of size of the mindset, because you really want to work with people who are ready to invest. And this is the same for ourselves, we're in the middle of a rebrand currently as well, and you've got to be ready, and you've got to want and see the value in investing in your brand and branding. So it's people who are really ready to take the business to the next level. It's people who probably realize they're doing all right, but actually they're ready to accelerate their brands. So yeah, it's people who are ready to hit that gas and move the business forward to a whole new level.
I would encourage everyone out there who is in business, entrepreneurship, if you're ready to start working on your brand, your branding, your messaging, everything from copy, visual design, how you show up in the world, book a free consultation at contactkay.me. That's contactkay.me. I'll say it once more. That's contactkay.me. Kay, thank you so much for coming on to Brilliance Business TV. I have thoroughly enjoyed having a conversation with you.
Yep, thank you for inviting me. It's been great.
I have really enjoyed having a conversation with you. Thank you everyone for watching Brilliance Business TV. We have been joined today with the incredible Kay Storey. Kay has shared how she has been in business over 22 years in design, brand and branding. We have discussed the importance of your vision, your mission. We have discussed why it is important that people know, like, and trust you. We have talked about the importance of being authentic and sharing your story and being consistent. Until next time, bye for now.